Oh boy, is it hot here. This summer is, ah, global warming, a natural process, whatever it is. I think some mixture of anthropogenic and a natural process. Maybe this sunspot will put a little damper in it, but I think that, we got to get a handle on our emissions. But then again, summer around here is also hot, so it's a mixture of things. I will make some more continuum hypothesis videos. I am going to address some of the cogent arguments that I think have been raised, particularly one raised by a mathematics professor that I'd like to address, and that will be coming. As it is now, I'm going to discuss the question: is mathematics natural to humans? And before I do, I want to do a little logic puzzle for you. This was a friend of mine wrote a logic primer that I'm going to post as soon as I can get some permission issues cleared up. But Jason wrote a logic primer, and here's the question. You have the chance to win $10. Not that I encourage gambling. Shame. But you have a chance to win $10 if you can guess this question right. Given the rule, if the card has a vowel on one side, then it has an odd number on the other side. Okay, that is the rule. Which of these cards do you check? And I'm going to name four of them. Okay, and you can see one side of each card. Okay, the first card has A. The second card has 3. The third card has C. And the fourth card has 2. Okay, so the rule is if the card has a vowel on one side, there must be an odd number on the other side. Okay, A, and you can check more than one. So you can check either one card, more than one, or no cards if that's the answer. Okay, card that has A, we don't know what's on the other side. The card that has 3, we don't know what's on the other side. The card that has C, we don't know what's on the other side. Or the card that has 2, we don't know what's on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to give you the answer, so you better stop the video if you want to think about it. Okay, well, the answer is the card with A and then the card with 2. Why? Well, A is a vowel, right? So we need to check what's on the other side to see if it's an odd number. Okay, now 3 is an odd number, but we don't need to check the other side on that because the rule is if it's a vowel, then an odd number. It doesn't say if an odd number, then a vowel. An odd number could have a vowel or a consonant. The rule says if a vowel, then an odd number, but it doesn't work. It's not an if and only if thing. Okay, gotcha. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Okay. C, we don't need to check because, again, a C is a consonant and it can have anything it wants on the other side. There's no limitation. The rule says if a vowel, then an odd number. 2, we do need to check because if it's an even number, then it better not have a vowel on the other side. Right? If a vowel, then an odd number. So if not an odd number, then not a vowel. That is affirmed. So the cards we need to check are A and 2. And this works according to a kind of non-intuitive logic because if a vowel, then an odd number lends itself to the belief that if a consonant, then an even number, right? It's the logic that we tend to use, but no, that's not the case. And I think that maybe the counterintuitiveness of logic puzzles like this might lend some people to believe that mathematics is not natural to humans. That some of you right now are probably doing your math homework and scanning this video saying, oh, no, I don't have to do my math homework because he's going to say that mathematics isn't natural to humans. So I'm not saying, but actually I'm going to make a case that it is. And the case deals with, for one thing, has been a scientific study dealing with hunter-gatherers, or at least, let's say, a tribe in the Amazon. I don't know if they're strict hunter-gatherers, but they're, and pardon my use of the term, particularly if Native Americans are watching this, but what Western man would call quote-unquote primitive. Okay, now take any Western and put them out in the middle of a jungle and ask them to orient themselves ecologically and see who's primitive. Okay, but what that means is that they have not yet discovered, let's say, a lot of the advanced technology that we've discovered. But we were in their shoes just about 10,000 years ago. So, there's no one here on this planet but us humans. So, pardon my use of the term, but we can just say a tribe of people who didn't have really any contact with formal education as we understand it. Okay, they have their own system of education, but they scored pretty well on geometry. They scored pretty well on spatial relationships. Not only that, but actually certain aspects of projective geometry, or maybe what we could call, I don't want to say Euclidean geometry, but maybe kind of nonlinear geometry, like the surface of a sphere. The type of geometry that we could call maybe nonlinear or non-Euclidean, or approaching that. That they actually did better on that than a lot of Westerners, because they didn't have the kind of Western mindset, that they were in a sense free of a lot of our assumptions. They actually did better on exactly the type of mathematical thinking that affirmed Einstein, and but even before Einstein, with Gauss and some of the 19th century mathematicians who explored non-Euclidean geometry. So, it's rather revolutionary, because a lot of times, particularly with nominalism, they've come at it from a kind of philosophical materialist assumption. Definitely the Marxist view of mathematics has traditionally been that there's no mathematical realm, that the idea of a Platonic realm of pure mathematics is fantasy, that math evolved through the dialectical changes of class relationships and materialism. Once we left the stage of being hunter-gatherers that and became agricultural, we had to count the beans and so forth. And yet, strangely enough, this tribe that didn't really even have much of a counting system was able to grasp mathematical concepts. Well, here's the question. We evolved as hunter-gatherers, right? How is it that we evolved the ability to even grasp mathematics? How is it that we evolved the ability to even grasp physics? I sometimes have my skepticism that it's really even good for us, as somebody who loves these subjects, that as a species it was necessarily all that good for us, that maybe our knowledge grew faster than our wisdom. But, I got to look at it as a positive, that maybe our wisdom will grow too. I mean, it has to, because if it doesn't, we're going to go extinct. But here's a good question. We can go back and forth between the Neo-Darwinist view and the Goldian view. And maybe there's a third view here. Well, the Neo-Darwinist view speaks of adaptationism. That's kind of hard to grasp, that our abilities to do mathematics would be purely an adaptation. To what? To the jungle? But then there's the Goldian view, which tends to rely on a kind of structural understanding, that once something comes about, that it doesn't have one single function. And that once our brain capacity evolves, that it doesn't have a set function or a set adaptation, that once the environment changes, well then, it can be used in the new environment. That once we develop civilization, science, and all this, that faculties that were innate in our brain would just kind of continue to be used in this different way. That there is no such thing as a set. It's a kind of difficult argument to grasp, but it's a kind of structural view of life, that life evolves according to a structure, and that not necessarily always adaptation. I didn't do it justice here, okay? But maybe there's a third perspective, is that maybe philosophical materialism itself is flawed, and that maybe Plato was right, that there is a mathematical realm, or Penrose, okay, that there is a kind of mathematical realm, and that there is a realm of what we think of as pure abstraction, but there it is. And the question is, if we are on some level, I don't go along with every attribute of Platonism. For one thing, I don't believe in the kind of human, I don't believe in this idea of a radical schism between spirit and matter. That's kind of a Gnostic concept. There are a lot of things that I don't believe in that they would believe in, but at the same time, I can't ignore the evidence that there is something about mathematics, set theory, infinity, and the like that has a reality to it in and of itself. So the bottom line is, if you tuned into this video thinking that you weren't going to have to do your math homework, you will. Anyways, I might do a part 2 on this just to explore this some more, because I think that it's interesting. So stay tuned.